goodness. Hello, world. What is up? Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Matt Forte. We are here live at the Build studio in New York City. Our next guest you absolutely know from, I don't know, maybe his 12-season run on Bones, or perhaps you remember him best for his work as Angel on the hit show Angel. Regardless of what you know him from, one thing's for damn sure, you love him. And his latest show, SEAL Team on CBS, is about to kick off its second season tonight. That's October 3rd if you're watching this in the future. The show's incredible attention to detail and true-to-life depiction of what it's like on and off the battlefield are a part of what makes this show so great. For those that watch as well as I do, Dida the super dog doesn't hurt, though. She's pretty amazing. Here to tell us all about Season 2, the always awesome David Boreanaz is in the house, folks. How we feel about David? We excited? Excited David's here? I'm excited. We're going to dive right in just a second. But first, I believe we have a quick look at the show, so let's go ahead and run that clip.
Spin me around. Take off the blindfold.
I lied. Are you just gonna keep punishing me for that? Someone died.
I'm not afraid. I know this will all fade. Only thing we fear is fear.
I'll see you when I get back.
Ladies and gentlemen, please a ridiculous amount of noise. David Boreanaz right here. It's David. David's right here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, my goodness. You ever get tired of that, man? People love you, dude. I love it. It's great.
It's so humbling, like this show. It's great to be able to be back here in New York City and to do something, a show like this, to kind of push it out there and show people what's really happening. And that's what we pride ourselves so much with this show is the fact that we can kind of create some light and some shadows of these guys and girls. And so I so appreciate the people being here. So thank you, and I appreciate you just as much as you guys appreciate me.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah, okay, absolutely. We'll hold for that. No, 100%, man. I was saying it in the intro. One of the things that makes this show great is your attention to detail, the way you guys nail not just the tactical portions of it. Of course, that's exciting, but really talking about what happens off that battlefield when you guys come back, when these guys come back, and what they go through and experience. I really want to get into all of that. Talk about this show. Talk about how it started for you. Before we do any of that, as I so love to do at the beginning of my time here, because I have a couple of minutes with you, it's just very simply, how are you? How are you doing, David? How is life right now?
I'm good. We are actually in the middle of shooting an episode now, which we're probably on episode 209 of all things. And it's always an excitement to be able to premiere a show. Personally, how is David Boreanaz doing? I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing great. I have a son who is at prep school right now, his second year. He's a sophomore, and that's always difficult to balance. As being a parent, thinking that you would send your child out to college. Yeah, your freshman would not. You wouldn't think high school. It wouldn't happen. But he's acclimated himself. He battles his adversities, and I'm so proud of his bravery. And my little girl Bella is doing fantastic. She's riding horses and jumping dogs in and out. She's 9. And my beautiful wife is doing fantastic. Jamie, she is just a fantastic support system, and she does a lot of work with horses. And so my parents are good. My sisters are good. I think just a cup of coffee, catching up. Yeah. It's great to be back in New York. I haven't had a slice of pizza yet, but I look forward to that.
Work on that.
Yes.
What is the holdup? What?
I just got in late last night, so
okay.
Fair enough. I'll get to it.
Yes, I retract my judgment regarding the slice of pizza. David, it's always so awesome to have you in New York and have you on this show. And okay, so let's talk about SEAL Team. Congratulations, Season 2. It's a wonderful thing. You know, you guys, you found out pretty early on in Season 1, comparatively speaking to other shows, that you were going to get to come back for a Season 2. Is that right? That was pretty exciting news, I imagine.
Yeah, I operate from a very moment-to-moment kind of mentality. When I started out in this business, my father always told me, just stay with the moment, be in the now. And I've kind of taken that philosophy into my work and saying that being present with the scene or the specific moment that I'm working on is that most important moment. Being able to shut down, do the work, the hard work that it takes to put into a character and focus on that. I never would think about seasons or shows being picked up or of that nature. Obviously, when you do get a green light to do a second season, I think it's great. But in my mind, it computes to got to do better. We have to have better moments. We have to push the envelope. I don't think I can settle with my work and won't. And that's why I'm in it. That's why I love doing it. So I look at it as a work in progress. Even at the end of 12 seasons on Bones was a work in progress. And I still won't settle on the accomplishments of it or Buffy or Angel. I'm never satisfied with it. And I think in a show like this, what makes it so intense and so humbling is that you're working with these real guys that are Tier 1 operators or veterans and Delta Force guys that see the world a little differently. So it's always moment to moment. And so I recognize that more so than, are we going to get a second season? Are we going to get picked up? Because you're only as good as they say in Hollywood, as the guard check that says hello to you and goodbye at the end of the day. And we're blessed, and that's what you got to remain focused on.
That's there's a lot in there I want to dive into. The idea of being, because you've been working consistently for, I don't know, close to 2 decades, and that's a hard thing to achieve. And you talk about how even with your earlier stuff, but you've never been satisfied.
Yeah.
Did that take you a long time as an artist to understand that was part of it for you? Was that frustrating in the beginning that you weren't satisfied? Were you chasing satisfaction and had to figure out that wasn't what it was?
Well, you go in when you first start out and you're young and you're obviously not technically trained. You hone your talents and you try to find a spot where you fit. What's your role? So it was hard to find that role for me starting out in Hollywood when I moved out there and I finished school at Ithaca College and I studied film. And I was like, hey, I'm just going to go direct a movie. Well, it don't work that way. I have these great creative visual images. It's fantastic. Hold on to them, but why don't you go over and clean out that honey wagon that needs cleaning? Why don't you gather all those 20 walkie-talkies and batteries that are dead? Why don't you think ahead and get me a cup of coffee or a donut with some of those sprinkles on it? That I was talking to someone earlier today is that the generation, or they call them millennials, so to speak, right? We all understand that we all want to, when we get out of college or whatever our aspirations are, they all want to start here. And the sheer reality of it is that you start really low here because you're kicked out of a society or a university or a part of your life of adolescence that you find yourself now in the real world. And my biggest advice is do the smaller things better than anyone else. Anticipate what the person needs. Be genuine and be kind. And so I think never settling for me is an idea is, oh, God, I wish I had just achieved that moment a little bit better. Was I really honest in a look? Or what was my subtext in that area of doing a scene with someone like Jessica Paré, who plays Mandy? Am I really thinking about my subtext and playing my conflict enough when I'm with my Bravo team guys? How do I relate that personally? So that's something that I work on. And the deeper and darker I can go with my acting coach, Ivana Chubbuck, then I know that I'm kind of striving towards being settled, but I just don't accept it.
It keeps you hungry too, right? It keeps it interesting, and it keeps you on your toes,
Yep.
and you keep looking to grow, which I think is important. And that I think is why you've been able to work consistently for almost 20 years.
And then something ironic. I was talking to Tyler Gray, who works in the show. He's a Delta Force guy, and he said that when these guys complete a mission or an operation, they don't revel in the success of it. It's done. It's a job. They've completed that. What they would examine would be the failure of that job. How did that not work? How did that op go wrong? Why did this happen to this specific thing? But they don't sit around hey, yeah, we came in and we repelled in and we crushed it. All 6 guys are on fire, man. We're rolling, we're doing our thing, and we're just badass, cocky dudes. And you know what? That's not how it operates. It's not it. But their biggest fear is failure, and that's the forefront of their minds. And it's an interesting concept, and one that I'm really trying to hone in on now.
Yeah. You mentioned Tyler. He's one of, if not the consultant. I'm sure there's a whole team of dudes working on this with you guys, keeping you honest and keeping it working through. I imagine the training process physically must have been unlike anything you've really taken on before. Just getting you guys ready to operate as a family unit, as a team. Can you just speak to a little bit of what that was like, and maybe going into season 2, if there was, did you guys go back and brush up on your skills before you got back on set and stuff like that, and just what it's been like?
I got PRP shots on my left knee, which, if no one knows what that is, it's basically you spin your blood and you inject your knee because it's so painful. You have meniscus and cartilage damage. Because my knee was kind of like, a little bit unstable, and I thought I'd done more damage to it. Shoulder issue because of slinging a gun on your shoulder and constantly go, go, go. Tyler and the guys that work on the show, we don't like to call them technical assistants or advisors. They're producers that relish in the story of concept of the story, what it means to execute that, and through execution, you tell the story, and then the op is finished, you've hit target, and you go home. And that's what we do. And if the experience is to experience it and feel it, not to see it. So we revel in that, and we hang our hat on that kind of concept. But the training aspect for me really is, I do work out in the gym. I do a lot of cardio work. I do a lot of work with bands and stretching and a lot of ice hockey playing. I think in my world, and everyone knows that I'm a big hockey fan, I operate, even when I direct shows, is I look at it as a sporting event. If it's a football game or a hockey game, how I'm going to move the camera and dump the puck and find the process. I relate very, very much so to sport metaphor. So for me, hockey was an easy fit because I love playing, I love being on the ice, and it's a team sport. You're only as good as your weakest link, and if you're not doing your job, you're not moving the puck, and if you're not moving the puck, then your mission's going to fail, and what's the overall? It's to score a goal. So that's how I operate, and that's how I relate to the physical aspect of it. The harder aspect of it is the mental capacity, is like getting into the heads of a Tier 1 operator. Mark Owen, who's got some 42 names and numbers in his cell phone to this day that have passed, and he won't even accept that and not even erase those and not even look into that. So how did that happen? How did those 42 deaths happen under his kind of unit, or what he was going through? How they compartmentalize, how they drive through operations. I hate using the word sociopath. Empathy is not really something that they do. They're guys that have a job and have a target. They don't think about around them, because you're either going to get killed or you're going to save, and that's their mission. Then they get home, and it's a different story. They can't. I would call it. I was talking to Tyler about this the other day. It gets boring. It gets boring. It's, where's my excitement level? Where's my high peak of 150% of doing something here? Where's the intensity? Where's that feeling of life and death? You come home and I'm struggling with Christmas tree lights, or I'm getting into a petty argument over somebody at the bank they're not understanding me, and I can't balance that out. It becomes frustrating, and then you go into the PTSD aspect of it. You go into brain injuries of it. You go into why they can't hold on to relationships. I've always felt that the best thing I can do for this character is examine the dark shadows and shed some light onto that. What's really happening? Because this is not a show about feelings. Let's get the feelings out of the way. This is not a, hey, let's watch this and all feel happy and sappy and sad. What's really going on? And that's the exciting part of it.
What has having had the opportunity to sort of really pull that curtain back and get inside of that world and have those conversations, what has that done for you when you go home, when you walk away from the set? How has that influenced your perspective on everything else around you?
It's pretty intense, and I go home and I'm blessed to have a great family, and what can I install into my child who's 16 years old and he's in high school and he's struggling with certain things, and it's a teenager, and how do you handle that, and how do you work through adversity? How do you not give up? How do you take some of those ideas that they've kind of given to you and shown to you is pretty remarkable. If I were to say to somebody, you get up here and give me you can't do 100 push-ups or 100 sit-ups. If I'm giving you a direct number, you eventually will have a limit set, and you're going to eventually fail. If I say just come up here and do sit-ups, you're just going to keep going until I tell you stop. Now, you could end up doing 200 sit-ups. It's the mind that is, you can do anything you want. It's just a matter of understanding your mind and how it operates with your body. So things like that. And also, we had a gentleman on last year who was with us, Dan Briggs, who was a fantastic guy, a real guy, veteran. And, you know, here's somebody who was in battle and was blown up, and I saw the ISR footage of this guy flying from an explosion, somebody who blew up their bodies, and you see the first thing he does is go to his brother, wounded, to get to his brother to see if he's okay. That's their mentality. And so I say, okay, something's wrong here. I'm struggling with something. Where do I go to? I go to my brothers or my sisters and understand. So it seeps into you. And I think the biggest thing I've taken away from it are the people that I've met, the new friends that I have met. It's really hard to count 5 friends on your hand. It really is difficult. I can really say the people that I have met and the brothers I've worked with on this show, it's getting a lot closer to having a full palm of people and guys that I can call and know that they'll be there for me.
It's pretty amazing. Well, I want to shift gears only slightly to something a little less heavy. One of my favorite aspects of the show that I identified very early on, and I think someone that is a dear friend of yours. I'm talking about Dida, the incredible dog on this show.
Yeah, Dida's the best.
Dida is out of control on this show. The little
Belgian Malinois, which is, if people don't know, a very high, intense energy dog.
I watched,
as you would know.
the things this dog is capable of. There, the little things, like I watched just the back of one episode. I think it was probably towards the end of the first season. Dida like jumps from a full sit up into the air, into the back of the bed of a pickup truck, gate up, the whole 9. I mean, she must have cleared at least 5-6 feet minimum. And that's not even an impressive thing that Dida does. That's just her in her natural state. And I also read that they always know when you're on set, because as soon as you show up, Dida comes and finds you. Yeah. And like you guys are like really tight and good buds.
We are.
Yeah.
But Dida knows me only as Uncle Jason.
That's it.
Uncle Jay, because Justin's like, who's the owner of Dida, is like, he's got to know you as your character's name, not as David, because it's just the way it worked. And I found that interesting too, is when I first met Dida, it was like, this is Uncle Jay, go to Uncle Jay, because you're going to be working with Uncle Jay. So the dog thinks there's Uncle Jay, it's not David. So it's like, if I was like, hey, Uncle David's here, he would be like, probably looking around. Uncle Jay's here. I got a Belgian Malinois coming at me. I'm like, slow down, man. It's a very intense dog, and fascinating to work with. Just very smart. And obviously, when you do work with animals on set, you have to be very careful. I'm always conscious of the fact. And I tell Justin, does Dida need water? What does Dida need? Dida's on a special diet. So you always have to remember that, because it's such a fast-paced shooting schedule, and you have to realize there's a lot of weaponry that's going on when we do go on these missions and operations and shoot that, so we're always very careful with that.
Well, it's funny. I was reading anything I could on Dida, honestly. I couldn't get enough. And I was reading one thing with Justin, and he was saying the way they do it is that, Dida is a narcotics sniffing dog, but in the show, it's an explosive sniffing dog. So it's all training for her, is what he was saying, is that like he's factored in that all of her performances are just training exercises. So Dida's getting better. She's learning as well and like doing her own thing.
She is. It's fascinating to watch what these dogs do is usually if there's an explosive device, they sit. And you're like, whoa, you're going through an op and a dog sits. That's heavy, there's an explosive device, and you're all like really intense.
Just from a storytelling standpoint, when you were first introduced to Dida in the beginning of the show, and they were like, she doesn't sit for anything except explosives, I was like, oh, that dog's gonna sit at some point. And so now, like, I was on the edge of my seat, like waiting, like, is Dida sitting yet? Like, when's Dida gonna
the dog
sit?
sits, have a drink.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna go to, in just a second, we're gonna go to questions in the audience. But I did want to ask you a little bit about, you touched briefly on how you approach directing and the application of a sports metaphor and all that. I'm very curious though, you directing, I saw at least one episode on this show, I know you directed, and just what that experience was like, because this is such a different show, how grounded in reality you are, the scale of the action and all these different things, and just what that was like for you, if there was something that threw you off your guard hard or that you were like exhilarating because it was something you haven't like been challenged by before?
It's very high paced. When you watch a show, a SEAL team, you're like, whoa, that went by like a roller coaster. It's like you get it and then it's over and you're like, what did I just experience there? What did I feel? It's very fast paced. And that's thanks to Chris Chulak, who comes from the ER world. I mean, that's pretty much the basis of how we run this show. When I was directing 21, there's so many elements that were involved in getting it right and understanding the beats and the purpose of it. But Jason's character was really kind of a little mental there. He was going through some brain trauma, and you just what's great about the show is a drive. And as a director, you have to just immerse yourself into it. And playing that part where Jason was at that specific moment, he was just down and dirty and rough and messy, and his head was all, it was dirt and blood, and I just threw myself into that concept and shot it. And we shoot in a very documentary style. Jimmy Muro, we shoot with anamorphic lenses, which gives us this great grand wide scope. We like to just get the camera and put it in people's faces and really find their experience and their expression. So it's a fast-paced show, and health-wise, you say, Jesus, I gotta hope my heart stays up for this, because you're constantly going and grinding it out. But it's a challenge. It always is a challenge. Yeah.
Even just you were telling me a little bit about in the agreement, your travel schedule for this show is bananas, man. It's bonkers. They got you all over the place.
Yeah, it's gotten I mean, I think from the inception of the show, we always wanted to say, let's take it to remote areas of the world because, hey, this is what these guys do. Well, I don't want to be stuck on a studio lot and with a backdrop and a green screen and getting fake digital effects, which I'm not saying we don't do some of those effects. We do, but we're very smart with how we do that. For us, if we can travel in a guerrilla warfare and shoot the show in the way we want to, which we're starting to do gradually now, more and more, it's going to be interesting. We're off to Puerto Rico to shoot in 2 weeks for Mexico City. We're doing a big, huge back 5 episode. Episode 1 to 5 is this whole emotional swing of the team, who comes back, who survives, who doesn't. 6 to 10 is the cartel. It takes place in Mexico City. Very vicious, very rough. And then 10 to the end will be our deployment to the Philippines. So we'll travel a lot. Yeah.
And you're up to which number now? You said you're
209.
209.
We start on Tuesday.
Wow.
So I'm currently shooting 208.
Wow.
So Friday morning, I'll get back Thursday night, and Friday we'll be shooting a big kind of thing where we're going in and we're disguising ourselves as a Mexican part of the cartel in order to take out to lure somebody in. So we see our SEALs basically dressed in the badass kind of masks, and it's pretty cool.
Sounds very cool, man. Well, congratulations again on this show, on season 2. You guys are doing amazing work. It's Wednesdays on CBS. Also, if you want to catch up, it's in CBS All Access. We got a bunch of questions in the room, a couple of them here. So we're going to start, looks like, right here on the green couch. Let's go for you first.
Hi. Oh, this is so exciting. My mother is a huge fan of yours, and I need to say that. Yeah.
You need to say that. Is your mom watching right now?
No, my mother's in the hospital right now. So I need to let you know how much of a fan of yours she is. She will rewatch Bones repeatedly. Like, I come into the room and she's still on season 4 for some reason. And now it's this show. She records it and watches it after she gets home from work. And you're just a big deal in our house.
Thank you.
I wanted to know, because you said that it's a lot mentally and physically playing this part, what is the appeal of these roles? Like with Booth, sometimes the storylines got dark, it got heavy. With this character, the whole premise is kind of dark and heavy.
There's always a comedian in that.
And you see that. But what's the appeal of these characters, these heavy, intense characters you play?
It's a good question. So, and that's something like what's that motivational kind of feel to the types of duality that I like to play? The guy who is this charismatic leader and then has a sense of being this duality of this, could be this evil person or this sense of maniacal, twisted guy. I like the dualities in roles. I think that there's something really interesting about the fact that, he can go out and save someone, have this sarcastic appeal, but at the same time have some spark behind his eyes. It's really playing with your personalities and finding a balance. I'm attracted to those roles. I think that they're great to play. I enjoy it, and I can draw upon it. So, That's a really good question. Something maybe I don't really have the full answer to, but I hope I answer that. And I many blessings, and I hope your mom heals fast. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. That was a beautiful question. Ditto. And just for some context at home, we weren't laughing at your wonderful question. Donald Faison, our next guest, was right behind you in the window, making an assortment of hilarious faces. I just wanted everyone at home to know why. That absurdly random moment.
Random moment. Little does he know, I'm going to get him back, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I know exactly how.
Stick around. All right, that was so great. Thank you for that. We've got a few more in the room. The next one, I got to go for the microphones. It looks like all the way back on the red has a microphone. Go for it.
So I know that the show has a very serious tone, but I was wondering what the vibe on set is like.
It's a good question. And I want to go back to your serious tone concept statement. I think that there's a seriousness to it, but one thing to really realize with the show also is there's a level of levity that is the humor. One of the things I asked about these guys, like how do they deal with the pain and the hurt, is through laughter and like making jokes about like references to Tommy Boy, and they actually do this, and in order to get through pain, they need comedy, and that's one of the things that we're going to be examining a lot this year, especially with the team, especially with Bravo team, and how they handle certain situations in their cages and they're getting ready. So it's the vibe on the set's great. It's hilarious. I mean, from Max to AJ to Neil to Tony to Jessica, we have a great tight-knit family, and that's how we started the show. We all hang out together. We love our being around each other, but we're also not afraid to tell each other how we're feeling in a very respectful way, which I think is a good bond to have, a healthy environment like that. We don't hold on to things. We don't shove it under carpets. We support, and a lot of practical jokes on AJ especially, because he likes to fall asleep a lot on the sets. So we'll be in the back of a truck, and he'll be like just kind of sleeping with his shades on, and Max will be like, and he'll be like, oh, Jesus Christ. So we get him all the time. So the next gag is what we're going to do is, those horns, yeah, right?
Horns, yeah.
So we're planning on horning him all day throughout the concept. So I can't wait for that one. But he's an easy target because he's either like falling asleep or doing off-camera lines because his character's from Texas, right? So he's always like, it's like, what? I don't understand what you're saying, man. And sometimes what comes out is not what's written. It's like, what? I'm sorry. And we were in Mexico City, and it was a line that he had to say, and he said El Baño, right? And Max is like, what the hell are you talking about, dude? He's like, I don't know, El Baño. I'm like, that's not working. Next. So he's an easy target, but we have a lot of fun on set. We do.
He sounds like he's a good sport about it. Yeah, awesome. I got one more. Is that what you're telling me? All right, one more, and it is okay right there. Do you have a microphone? Perfect.
Yes, I do. Hi. Was it a hard transition going from Seeley Booth to Jason Hayes, or was it easy because they do have similarities?
It's a good question. I mean, I think that the format itself of characters of being an Army Ranger and a sniper has an understanding of that kind of world, which helped, obviously. Handling handguns, definitely. I mean, the intensity of investigation in a very sarcastic way, with a guy who wears a cocky belt buckle and funny socks to a tier 1 leader who's going to get killed if he doesn't get the mission. There's a bit of a difference to there, but no, it definitely allowed me the exercise of that energy and that leadership, which you take from, I think, all of your roles and put them into. And I love Jason Hayes because he wasn't there on paper when I first read him, and it was a palette that I was able to kind of hold on to and color, and I'm still trying to color inside and, most importantly, outside of the lines with him, because I think what's outside of him is really what's affecting him, and if I can show that, then that's what makes it really powerful.
Thank you so much for that question. Thank you, guys. You were an amazing audience. This was really wonderful questions. Fantastic. I'm getting the signal here that we got to wrap things up. Thank you for hanging out and being so awesome, man.
Thanks, man. I love coming by here. This is a great setup you have.
Thank you so much. And we always love having you on. I'll remind everybody out there again, Wednesdays on CBS. That's tonight. If you're watching live right now, the season 2 premieres tonight. And if you want to catch up, CBS All Access has all the episodes, so definitely check it out. SEAL Team. One more time. Come on, guys. Crazy noise. David Boreanaz, right here.